We've all heard the sage advice before. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But haven't we all had times in our lives when we knew it sounded too good to be true, but we really liked what we heard and we wanted it to be true, so we bought into what they were selling? If what I hear reinforces something I already want to believe, I easily become a willing fool. Dr. Dean Ornish, who teaches people how to prevent and reverse disease, and the founder of the nonprofit organization Preventative Medicine Research Institute, said, "It's a great way to sell magazines or books by telling people what they already want to hear." These days, just about any theory can be backed up by a study. I love chocolate, and am an attentive listener to even the weakest authoritative claims that chocolate might be good for me. When I see it in the news or in published articles, I assume there is sufficient evidence to support these claims. Interestingly, though, back in 2015, news stations and major publications featured a study claiming people could lose weight by consuming chocolate. This study was written by a journalist and associate scientist from Harvard University who published the fallacious study in an attempt to illustrate how easily the media can be fooled. As it turned out, not one of the reporters who relayed this information to the public took the time to substantiate the facts. This is a small illustration of just how confusing health facts are to navigate. When we can't rely on the media, how can we possibly navigate often confusing reports on diet nutrition? Even the U.S. government changes its diet nutrition advice every 5 years. I've lived through decades of changing diet advice. Low fat, high fat, animal fat, low carbs, lots of milk, count your calories, eat whatever you want, then just exercise to compensate. I remember when eggs were taken off the naughty list and switched to the good list. I'm fairly confident I wasn't the only one who started consuming a lot more eggs when they heard this. Diets promoting large quantities of animal protein as healthy and a great weight loss stratagem seem to reappear with new names every decade or so. The Atkins diet, the South Beach diet, the ketogenic diet, the zone diet. I am embarrassed to say that for much of my adult life, I thought protein was synonymous with meat. I didn't realize that protein is actually in everything that grows. Vegetables, fruit, all plant material contains protein. When the admonition to make sure you get enough protein was heralded, the protein powder industry became a huge market, and we often heard the phrase, good quality protein. Good quality just means complete. It doesn't mean it's any better for you. Animal protein contains all of the essential amino acids your body needs. Plants, however, each contain some of the essential amino acids, and when combined, make a complete protein. If you are consuming a variety of fruits and vegetables and things that grow, you are consuming all of the essential amino acids your body needs. Just because animal protein is complete doesn't mean it is better for you. I've always known that fruits and vegetables are good for my body. It seemed to be generally known that fruits contain a lot of sugar, so I made sure to not consume too much sugar. No one ever focused on the fact that fruit, being a whole food, comes with tons of fiber and thousands of other essential nutrients. Common sense and gut instinct tell us that fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, legumes, and things that come from the earth are good for our bodies. But most of us don't feel driven to incorporate them into our lives, at least not in any real quantity. When I started down the path of health and healing with herbs, I read a lot of books. And do you know what I realized? The overwhelming consensus from the best scientists, doctors, nutritionists, and dietitians all extol a lifestyle of consuming large quantities of things that grow. My paradigm began to shift as I realized I had been fooled by so much of the sounds too good to be true health advice. I felt fooled. But I have to admit, I was a willing fool. I like the notion of consuming large portions of meat and dairy. I like the idea of eating whatever I want as long as I was willing to exercise. Even though I didn't love the idea of calorie counting, it made sense to me. What hurt me the most about being fooled is I didn't realize the mass amounts of nutrients in those things that grow, and that taking vitamin supplements could never duplicate or compensate for these nutrients. I started looking at my diet and realized I was consuming a lot of not food things that my great-great-grandparents wouldn't recognize as food. The truth is simple. If we are looking for health, there are no magic pills or shortcuts, although there are industries that will always try to convince us otherwise. The overwhelming long-term advice confirms again and again that the more whole foods you consume, the greater health you will enjoy. Whole foods mean foods in their natural state. I know there are some of you who believe there is more to this story, that food cannot be all there is to health. And you are right. There is more. Much, much more.